In the courtroom was silent, the kind of silence that weighed heavy in the chest, when suddenly the sharp crack of a hand meeting skin shattered it. A woman, dressed in an expensive red dress and dripping with arrogance, had just slapped the pregnant wife standing before the judge. Gasps rippled across the room like a wave, and even the millionaire husband, sitting smugly with his mistress, looked stunned for a moment. What no one in that courtroom knew, however, was that the man presiding over the case, the judge, was not just another authority in black robes. He was the pregnant woman's father, and this was no longer just a trial. It was about to become a reckoning. Before I take you deeper into this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of truth always finding its way, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel Stories Collection. Your support means everything and helps us continue bringing real, heartfelt stories to life. Her name was Eliza. She had once walked into her marriage with bright eyes and a heart full of dreams, believing love would protect her, believing loyalty would be enough. But love, when it is unbalanced, becomes a weapon. Her husband, David, was a millionaire who had been adored by society, but behind closed doors his pride and lust consumed him. The woman in the red dress, his mistress, had not only stolen her husband's affection, but also pushed Eliza into humiliation. Eliza, with her gentle hands resting protectively over her growing belly, carried not only the weight of a child but also the unbearable heaviness of betrayal. She had not wanted to come to court, but David had forced her hand. He wanted a divorce, wanted to strip her of dignity and rights, leaving her and the unborn child with nothing. Yet she walked into that courtroom with a quiet grace, her eyes lowered, her heart trembling, her only strength being the life that grew within her. But when the mistress slapped her, the pain wasn't just physical. It was the cruel reminder that in David's eyes, she was nothing more than an obstacle to be crushed. The judge sat there, his face stern, but deep inside his soul burned with fury. This was his daughter, his only child, the girl he had walked to school as a little girl, the one he had promised to protect forever. Life had taken them on different paths, and he had respected her choice to marry a man of her own will. But as he watched the disgrace unfold, as he saw the audacity of another woman daring to touch his pregnant daughter with violence, something shifted inside him. The father beneath the robe awoke, though the judge above the robe remained calm. 4. Eliza, time slowed in that moment. The slap was hot against her cheek, but what burned more was shame. She wanted to cry out, but instead, she simply closed her eyes and prayed for strength. She remembered the nights she had gone to bed alone, the nights she had heard her husband's cold voice dismissing her pain, the moments she thought of leaving but held back because of love, because of fear, because of the child she now carried. And now, here she was, humiliated in front of strangers, in front of her husband who should have been her shield. Yet, when her father's voice finally broke through the silence, calling the mistress and David into accountability, she felt something. The trial continued, but it no longer felt like a trial of money and power. It became a trial of character, of truth versus deceit. David tried to mask his arrogance with charm, the mistress sneered with disdain, but the judge asked questions that pierced deeper than any lawyer could. He unearthed financial manipulations, exposed lies, and revealed the callousness David had hidden for so long. Every word spoken carried weight, every silence held tension. The audience in the courtroom leaned forward, sensing that justice was not just a distant concept, but was breathing in that very room. Eliza sat quietly, her hand clutching her belly, and for the first time in months, she felt protected. Not by her husband, not by society, but by something larger, the truth. And in those moments, she realized that sometimes life strips everything away only to remind you of the core you had forgotten. She was not weak. She was not worthless. She was a mother, a daughter, and a woman deserving of love and respect. The climax came when the mistress, emboldened by arrogance, spat cruel words against Eliza. calling her unfit, mocking her pregnancy, suggesting she was clinging to David only for his wealth. The courtroom bristled with disgust, and the judge's gavel struck hard. His voice thundered not as a father, not even just as a judge, but as a voice of truth itself. He reminded everyone that a woman carrying life was to be honored, that betrayal was not a path to happiness, and that justice would not bow to pride. In that instant, David's mask cracked. He had built his empire on intimidation and power, but none of it mattered before the piercing gaze of justice. When the verdict was delivered, Eliza's rights were not only protected but fortified. David's assets were divided in a way that secured her child's future. The mistress was left humiliated, and for the first time, Eliza walked out of a courtroom not as a victim but as a woman reborn. She looked at her father, tears brimming in her eyes, and though no words were spoken, their hearts exchanged a vow. He would always protect her, and she would always rise. Life afterward was not suddenly easy, but it was freer. Eliza embraced her child's birth with courage, no longer tied to the chains of betrayal. Her scars became her strength, her story became her shield, and her heart, though broken once, began to heal in ways she had never thought possible. For the millionaire who had once believed money could silence truth, his empire began to crumble, for wealth without love is only dust in the wind. And the mistress who had believed cruelty was power faded into the shadows of irrelevance. As Eliza held her newborn in her arms months later, rocking the child to sleep under the soft light of her father's home, she realized she had been given a gift greater than gold, the gift of starting over. Sometimes the end of one chapter is not destruction, but rebirth. And she, a woman once forgotten, was now a woman remembered by herself. If this story touched your heart. If you believe that truth always finds its way even through pain and betrayal, I ask you from the bottom of my heart, please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to Stories Collection, and comment below what part of Eliza's journey moved you the most. Your support is the lifeblood of our work, and together we can keep spreading stories that heal, inspire, and remind us of the strength hidden in ordinary people. Special request. Please comment below. Do you believe justice always finds its way, no matter how powerful the lies? Eliza had not always lived in shadows. There was a time when she was radiant, when love had painted her days in bright colors, and her marriage to David seemed like the fulfillment of every young woman's dream. He was charming, handsome, and wealthy, the kind of man who walked into a room and drew every gaze. When he had asked for her hand, she believed she was chosen, cherished, and safe. For a while, she had been. The early years of their marriage had been filled with gentle promises, long drives through the city lights, and whispered plans about children and growing old together. She would often wake up to David's hand brushing back her hair, his voice telling her she was his whole world. But wealth has a way of feeding pride, and pride has a way of suffocating love. Slowly, David's attentiveness turned into indifference. Late nights at work became common, then nights away from home. When Eliza asked questions, he brushed her off with coldness, accusing her of being ungrateful. The love that had once been a soft flame now flickered weakly. Choked by secrets, the day she first suspected the presence of another woman, Eliza had been preparing dinner. David's shirt carried a perfume that wasn't hers, and though her heart sank, she convinced herself it was nothing. But denial does not erase truth, it only delays the pain. Soon, whispers reached her ears, society gossip about a younger woman, bold and beautiful, who had been seen too often near David. That woman, Lydia, the mistress in red, stepped into Eliza's life like a storm. Unlike Eliza's quiet grace, Lydia was loud, flamboyant, and merciless. Where Eliza bowed her head in patience, Lydia lifted hers in pride, mocking the very existence of a wife she saw as fragile and outdated. Pregnancy had come to Eliza as both a blessing and a battle. She carried her child with joy, whispering promises to the little life inside her belly, even while her marriage cracked around her. But instead of celebrating, David had grown colder. To him, the child was an inconvenience, a tie to a marriage he no longer valued. Lydia's poison worked its way deeper, convincing him that Eliza wanted him only for his wealth, that she was weak, clinging, and undeserving. The cruel irony was that Eliza had never cared for money, she had only wanted love.